What's up? What's up? What is up? It's another Friday, another opportunity to get together and record the Ball Hog Sports Talk. We are in the building. The whole crew is here. And today's episode is going by the title of Fake ID. We all remember those early college days. And I ain't going to ask nobody to raise their hand and incriminate themselves because as your counsel, whether you like it or not, I'm going to say you keep that information to yourself. But we remember the fake IDs. We remember trying to get in the clubs. We remember trying to get into the bars. We remember going through painful exercises to make us really seem as though we were the person on that ID. We remember needing to know the birth date because you were going to be asked. You remember needing to know the address because you might be asked. We remember needing to find somebody on campus, an upperclassman, that looks somewhat like us so we could get that fake ID. We got into places. We got into situations because of that fake ID. And this week, we're going to hop into sports, business, entertainment because there's a lot of people walking around with a fake ID. They've gotten into places that they might not necessarily qualify to be. They've gotten into situations that have been deemed by others that make them unworthy to be in. And so with that, as your backdrop, fasten your seatbelt. Pull up a nice, comfortable chair. Make sure you got a nice, tall cup or mug of coffee. Make sure that it is ready to go because if you have never been a part of the experience that is the Ball Hog Sports Talk, I promise you it's going to be a hell of a ride. So with no further ado, boys and girls, cats and rats, dogs and frogs, and anybody and everybody in between, get ready for the Ball Hog Sports Talk. Let's go. Wake up, wake up, wake up, and stay woke. Because this is the Ball Hog Sports Talk with your boy, B. Brown, ESQ, a.k.a. the Ball Hog, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South. This is the place where sports, business, and entertainment collide. And we're going to give it to you rough, rugged, and raw. So come get you a spoonful, like some grits with butter and salt. You know how we do it in the South, y'all. Make sure you do not get caught in your feelings. Strap on your seatbelt and enjoy the ride. Come on, let's go. You know what it is? We're in the building. It's on like Donkey Kong. We're going to get this thing crackling like we ain't never left. It's another Friday, man. And we're getting to those peak summer months where it's getting real hot. Even in places like Chicago. So hot that it don't even look like you in Chicago no more. Look like you got out of there, man.
I had to get up out of there. It was so hot in Chicago, man. I had to come down where it's nice and cool and sunny California. Yay. Out here visiting some friends. Gonna hit that Laker game tomorrow. I had to watch when history starts coming back. You know, they tried to make it a little too exciting yesterday, but we're gonna save that. We're gonna save that. But
you didn't say that with your chest, man. You didn't say it with
your
chest. I'm just
run it back. Run it back. So look, we're gonna
because normally you give a number and everything. Now you just talking about they
it's
don't come back.
Six. It's six. I gotta keep telling you.
And how many? Bruh, man.
It's six.
Flo.
Six.
I think that my man has had himself quite the evening because he talking about LA coming back. But no, regardless of that, we always love to have the Big Flo Show coming, not from the Middle Coast, but from the West Coast. What's up, good brother?
Man. I'm here, man. I'm here.
You're in the building.
Also from early, bothering folks who's trying to sleep. Which that's what I do for the Ball Hawks. Let's go.
Yeah, hey man, sacrifice. What you don't do for us is let us travel with you, man. One of these days, I'm gonna try to be your travel.
Yeah, you gotta get your weight up. You gotta get your weight up a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
I see that. You were in Florida. You was talking about fishing last week. Now you're in California. I ain't the smartest man in the world.
Is it a bad time for me to tell you?
It sounds like you got money.
Mia E is traveling next week. Is that bad for me to tell you that?
Yeah. just make it even worse. Just throw alcohol in my wound.
You were supposed to tell, but we'll figure it out after the show.
He's going to invite you next year. ETP in the building, man, from the East Coast, looking real normal and in your normal does like you and I. We don't get to travel as much, but we still are just as important. What's up, good brother? How are you?
Doing well, man. Happy to be here. Happy Friday and happy anniversary of the birth of Malcolm X.
Oh, is that the case? If I'd have
It
known that, I'd
is.
have worn my Malcolm X hat today. My brother Malcolm. Yeah, brother Malcolm. Happy birthday, Malcolm X. Y'all know that this episode is going by the title of Fake ID. And I know that each of you have been on college campuses where fake IDs ran rampant. We know that the identification of a person and trying to pass to somebody else while illegal is very natural. It's very normal. It's a part of our progression into adulthood. But you would think once you become an adult that the use of fake IDs will be no longer necessary. I present that as the backdrop to get into our first topic today. I think the captain of the fake ID team when it comes to adulthood has to be Ja Morant. The last time we talked about this, we inserted a clip from 8 Mile. And we talked about Clarence. And the freestyler talked about Clarence has 2 good parents. Clarence went to private school. Cranbrook, I think, was the name of it. And I'm paraphrasing, but the rap goes on a bunch of bars talking about how Clarence, with 2 good parents from Cranbrook, this private school, is faking the funk. And oftentimes we ask, does art imitate life or does life imitate art? Because I see Ja Morant and his 2 good parents. I see Ja Morant and his nice family and the good structure. And then I have to sort of slap myself because that same Ja Morant is the one wearing the gold grills, always seems to be magnetically connected to a gun or pistol, and portraying an image that would seem to be out of bounds from where Ja Morant really is from. I didn't think we would be rehashing this, but yet we are. Not because the story had legs of its own and people couldn't just let it go by the wayside. Not because we were dealing with some ramifications and repercussions based on the first time. The only reason we're talking about this right now is because Ja Morant and his friend decided to post a video. In that video, Ja Morant is brandishing a weapon yet again. In that video, not only is he brandishing a weapon, he's doing so dangerously close to his own temple. I don't know if it was loaded. I don't know if the safety was on. But when you see it and then you try to reconcile that with the role that Ja Morant and all mega superstars play, you have a challenge upon you. Because it doesn't look like the type of role model that you want being, or you don't want him portraying that role. And so I open it up. Our first topic when it comes to fake ID is Ja Morant. I don't have any particulars in terms of where I want to go with this, but I do want to understand because we've heard from the pundits already, the experts, the people that are the talking heads on TV. We've heard someone like Charles Barkley give him the riot act. Give him the riot act, despite the fact Charles Barkley is notorious for saying, I am not a role model. We've also heard others. A white TV personality, JJ Redick, I think was pretty powerful in saying, look, we're ready to throw this 23-year-old under the bus. Really 23 years old, and he didn't break a law. And so from both extremes, there are good points. But the truth of the matter is we are faced with this reality of dealing with this topic and talking about it because Clarence, who has 2 good parents, keeps on posting these live videos of him doing things as silly as brandishing a weapon. Gentlemen, the floor is yours. No particular order. If Ja Morant, and we're to that age now, and Ja Morant, it could be our sons. We're at that age now. If we're having a conversation with him after raising Clarence with these 2 good parents and sending him to Cranbrook, what are we saying to him? Because we're that age now. We the old folks in the room. And as old folks, right, you try not to be too judgmental because we remember when we were the ones using fake IDs to get into Bridget McGuire, allegedly. We remember being with our first act on a college campus let me find that fake ID. We remember being young. We were 23 at one point. But now we are faced with this discussion, not because of an old story that won't die, but because, again, Ja Morant and his air quote friend have produced a live video. What say you?
I mean, I don't think that the criticism is as much on this act. If this is the only act, then we would ever. But I think previous acts that he had, he went in there. I thought in the interview he looked like he was fighting off a smile the whole time. Like, y'all can't touch me. I'm gonna get away with this easy. And you just kind of put it in the face of the NBA, as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
You come out and you get off easy when you go into court and they say not guilty, and you turn around and start laughing at everybody, pisses people off. You get back later and say, "Oh, yeah, actually, I know double jeopardy applies, but I did that shit. I am who you thought I was, right?" And I just saw Gilbert Arenas, of all people, give an interview before this happened, and he said, Ja Morant this summer needs to just get in the gym and be in the gym, not be seen, don't make any appearances, don't go on Cancun, don't have anything, any social media, nothing. Just have people wonder where the hell was Ja Morant, and then come out and assassinate, and people will get over it. Ja Morant said, "Hold my beer or hold my pistol. I'm going to come out here and for no reason, I'm just going to get on TV or on live and start flashing the gun and start acting real stupid." And it just, people lose sympathy for him. So yes, JJ Redick is right. He did not break the law, and we're doing it. But people are just tired of seeing it, and it's like, what are we doing here? What is your image that you're trying to portray? The NBA is a brand, right? It's already done a lot of stuff to support the African American community, Black community, in protests and all different things of that nature. It's lightened up the whole. You had to wear a suit to an interview. It's embraced people to come in and be more expressive. You know what I mean? They don't say anything about the tattoos and the hair, do whatever, nor should they, right? Letting these people be who they are. I just think when you come out there and you're doing stupid stuff like this, you just lose. You're just bad for the brand. It's just bad for the brand all the way. And like, why are we doing it? So, yeah, maybe he didn't break a law. Maybe we're throwing him away 23. But like, come on, man, you're a superstar. You're trying to be the face of the NBA. Nike just went away from Kyrie Irving based off of a recommendation or a movie and said, anointed you, so you're going to be our next guy. You have this big thing come your way. At least if you're going to get in trouble, do it because you made a stand about something that's like a belief. But to just sit there and flashing guns and acting stupid like this, and you just underperformed in this playoff series and did whatever, I don't know. 23 is grown to me.
You bring up the brand Nike, and it has now been identified, or it's been pointed out, or been recognized that Nike has taken all of the Ja ones, which was the first of the signature Ja Morant shoes that Nike has decided to invest in. They took that shoe off of their app. And there are people who I truly love, that I really, really love, like people who I think are intelligent people that have spent the whole week making excuses for Ja Morant. The whole week talking about he didn't do anything illegal, we're being too tough on him. But when I'm being old man here, and I'm talking to Ja Morant, if he's my son, if he's my nephew, which by this crazy, the way time flies, mathematically that could be the case. I gotta say, bro, like, there's a bag there with your name on it, with generational wealth that is essentially, right? Like, you're doing these videos like it's a real FU to whoever doesn't like it. The type of money that you can make is real FU money. And I would just advise them, like, bruh, take a step back. ETP, you understand the branding world. You understand marketing. You understand that not only has Ja Morant been sort of ordained as the new face of the NBA, right? Which is the unofficial stamp of approval that you were ordained this unofficial face of the NBA. He was absolutely ordained and officially stamped as the new face of Nike. So now he's your client. Let's not even say son or nephew. He's your client. He's hired you to run his brand strategy. And you get this notification in the middle of the week that John Morant has posted another video brandishing a gun. What's the conversation you're having with him? Because I think that if we want to be in different rooms, we want to move in different circles, we want to be in different, tax brackets, we got to start having a different conversation. ETP, your client, your conversation, what do you say to him?
So I think the basic piece of this is, outside of all of it, the issue is that he is a major public figure by way of the fact that he has a special, high, very small percentage of people in the world can do talent, and he's given a platform, and he is promoted and celebrated and given fame because of it. So all of the, we can talk about all of the, corporate elements, but like the main thing is, this is an issue of company policy, right? Like the NBA is a business. They have, the franchise through way of the NBA is compensating him for his performance. And with all professional sports, with all entertainment vehicles, you have your talent, and then you have how you represent your talent, right? So you perform, but you're also required to be a public figure, speak to the press, be a good role model, sign autographs, all of these things that come with like the being paid for your craft.
Right.
And so we can talk about nothing being illegal or it being an issue, but ultimately the NBA told him that this is unacceptable. They suspended him the first time. He has, I think this is like the sixth incident. There's a lot actually under the surface of this, which is interesting, where, obviously he has an issue that happened at his house where he allegedly, assaulted a kid and brandished a gun or threatened him with a gun. There's an issue at a sporting goods store. There's an issue with one of his friends who, after learning about this incident of the last one with him holding the gun, that apparently the person that filmed or on their Instagram who was doing the Instagram live is the same guy that got into it on the court at a game with the Indiana Pacers, and then was driving the car that then was pointing a laser sight or a laser pointer at the Indiana Pacers bus after the game that was perceived to be threatening of shooting or something along those lines. So there's this like pattern of behavior that clearly the NBA does not represent and will not accept. So outside, like Nike only cares because you're on TV and you're on TV because you are playing a game, and you're playing that game because the NBA and the franchise that you're associated with gives you the platform to do so. So as your client, if you're not able to be on that court, it doesn't matter. Nike's not giving you money because you have a great Instagram account. Like, you have a following that is a result of your talent and your craft. So all that's going to dry up if you're not able to continue to maintain your image and your presence in the, in the sport. He already lost $39 million by missing, because he was not voted into All NBA. He missed the Supermax deal. He lost $39 million.
Hold on. He had a $9 million bonus.
There was an incentive for him to be voted into the All NBA, and if he was not All NBA, then he basically loses the opportunity to make an additional $39 million. So the punishment has already been there. He's been suspended for games. He's obviously been dragged through the mud publicly, and he's also compromised $39 million. Granted, for somebody that has many millions of dollars, maybe it's not a concern. But ultimately, at this point, I just keep coming back to, what is the NBA's punishment going to be? Because, like, I'm not going to discuss whether it's legal or illegal. Who knows? I'm not going to discuss whether he's right or wrong. I'm not going to discuss, there's millions of kids that buy his jerseys and his sneakers and all of these things, and that's not how you want to represent yourself, and that's not the image you want to portray. But regardless, this is about a corporate policy with an employee. How do they want to handle it, and how do they want to provide any type of repercussions? Because he's already owned up to it the first time, said he would do better. The second time, he's already come out and said he owned up to it and he's going to do better. but ultimately the NBA is a multi-billion-dollar global business, and he's compromising their money. So what's the punishment or the penalty that he needs in order to correct his behavior if he wants to still participate in the as an employee of the organization, or do they just get rid of him? And I think that's the question that they're trying to answer right now.
They can't get rid of him.
Let's say this.
It's too good.
Because they won't get rid of him, but at the same time, there are categories within the NBA. There is a upper tier, upper echelon category that the NBA attaches its brand to. And when they attach itself to that brand, you are walking on eggshells.
Yeah, but don't dismiss the idea that they can't. I'm not saying in this situation they probably won't get rid of him, but the point is there's a pattern of behavior that he's not clearly changing. So at what point do you not consider removing him from the league? There's plenty of talent available.
So let's say this, and we'll go out with this, because I think that when you described it, you talked about a part of a corporate structure that you have to adhere to the guidelines of a corporate structure. And that's looking at him as an employee of the NBA. I think a lot of professional athletes, and even when it comes to young athletes, they see themselves almost as an independent contractor. I'm not a corporate America guy. I just have this talent that I've worked so hard to hone that I have a lot more liberties and freedoms in how I conduct myself. And I think that's the divide in where players see themselves as either an employee of this big major corporation NBA or as an independent contractor, an entrepreneur, if you will, that just happens to be loosely associated with the NBA. So that's the first issue. But I go back to two things, and let's just end it here, because fake ID, we talked about Clarence having two good parents, but I think there are some other guilty parties when it comes to brandishing a fake ID. There are people that are calling themselves friend. That is how this video got out. A friend taped it. A friend is the one who allegedly showed a gun to the Indiana Pacers bus. And the other part of it is, to keep it real, I think this is a classic example of when keeping it real goes wrong. There are some players that think that because of their upbringing, not necessarily Clarence, let's say he's playing the role, but there are some people that think that because of my upbringing, because my nucleus of friends happen to be from a certain part of the world and behave themselves a certain way, that it would be a fake ID moment to try to acquiesce to this corporate America structure. And so they do believe that they've made the money, they got the gift, they can behave the way they want and hang with who they want to hang with. And so now these two things are clashing. And to be honest, I don't know where I fall on it, but if I'm dad to John Morant, or I'm a father figure or older OG that he looks up to, we're going to have some tough conversations about who your friends really are and who's portraying himself as a friend. And then we're going to have a real tough conversation about keeping it real can go wrong, because I don't care how tough you are, right? When you're talking about billions of dollars, we got to have billions of dollar type of behavior. There's a certain code of conduct with that. I'll give you guys last word, man. Let's go out in the next minute. What say you? And please, our audience, as always, we encourage you to chime in on this. Is John Morant being judged too harshly for being just a 23-year-old kid?
Yeah, I'll just say, I guess the clash piece that you're talking about, totally fair, understandable. But ultimately, at the end of the day, how much does the NBA stand to lose without John Morant versus how much does John Morant stand to lose without the NBA? And that ultimately is going to give you an answer. Like, we could sit here and say they'll never get rid of him. They absolutely would easily get rid of him if he continued to compromise their business, and they'd be totally fine.
The
totally
Gilbert
fine.
Arenas mention makes it a little more real, where Gilbert Arenas went from top 10 player to out of the league like that.
Never got another shot.
Never got
Right.
another shot.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. You are a commodity. There are plenty of people that will do a whole lot to get into the space that you occupy. So ultimately, you just have to decide what you're willing to do to maintain your membership in this club. Ultimately, whether you want to call it being an employee or being a contractor or whatever,
I raised
it's not
this
about,
because you said membership to a club. I thought, and this just might be the naivety of me, I thought in this situation, because he does legally own that firearm in a state that allows him to do exactly what he did, I thought the NRA would be the most loud supporters of Ja Morant in this moment. And it's been crickets. You talk about fake ID, because he is a member. I don't know if he's an actual member of the NRA.
But do you know, is it official he owns that gun? It's legally licensed.
Yeah, no,
his name. He was on his property.
Yes, that has been vetted. The gun is legally owned, right?
That specific gun. I mean, how do we have that level of detail?
Just because of the NBA and it's not. I hope they don't cut our airwaves down, but the NBA has ways of checking that information, and so before some pundits talked about it, they have said that it has been vetted and that he legally owns the gun. Which, whatever. But the NRA ain't said nothing. Crickets.
Hell, and they're not going to say anything. Either they're going to get behind that. NRA, I don't want to lose too much time on NRA. I'll just say this.
But it does go to the whole fake ID thing, right? It's like,
who cares
it's fake.
NRA?
All of it is just...
They're fake as hell. I just think right now you're trying to stop a train wreck before it happens, right? And then we've seen this before. If you have any sort of intelligence at all, you look at this, and if you went to Vegas and you try to take a bet and decided to bet that Ja Morant would do something really stupid, they wouldn't take your bet because they just think the odds are too much in your favor, or it'd be like 1,800 in the wrong direction. So give me 100, give me your 1,800, and we'll give you 100 if you're right. It just looks like things are going wrong, and they got to figure something out, and they got to do something, and people are going to get mad or whatever. But if he doesn't, acquiesce and say, "Look, you're right, guys. I'm going to change my behavior." I mean, like you said, they will have to part ways. I didn't think I thought Gilbert Arenas would be back. Never came back. Never came back, right? And Ja's is in a situation where they're not going to let you do something that's going to be so detrimental to the league. You're giving the warning sign, all the warning signs right now. They went easy on him the first time, and because he was so good. You didn't even let any time pass. You didn't even let the taste come out of your mouth, and here you are acting stupid again. I don't know if we can trust you with this responsibility, man. We're going to do what we're going to go do. Now, somebody probably, he's young enough that would pick him back up if someone just cut him. But the NBA would have to get him out the league, because I don't think that Memphis is a situation where they could just cut a guy like that. But if he keeps acting the way he's going to act, he's going to be out the league. And I'd hate to see it. Somebody's got to slap the shit out of him and get him to grow up.
My man, Andre Compton, you're never late, Crump. But to give you the 30-second rehash, he says you're late. What did I miss? And I'm going to transition this into our next topic. But what you missed was Clarence with two good parents, a.k.a. Ja Morant. We're trying to figure out, when it comes to this topic, fake ID, is this a fake identification? In addition to that, I ask all of you, challenge yourselves to think of how you advise Ja Morant from here, if he's a real friend. Because any friend that pulls out a phone at this point while I'm driving with him, I'm hitting the eject button. There ain't no more live videos. It seems like they know exactly what songs to play for him. He get crumb, and here come the blitz. Why does the gun have to be this whole generation, man, is just different to me. I know TikTok is their means of a dance. You send a kid to a dance now, they won't know what to do. But you give them a blick, and all of a sudden they got rhythm. I don't get it. I really don't. But Clarence with two good parents, brother, if I'm your advisor, your counselor, I'm going to sit you down for a while, bro, and just say, it's time to take a chill pill. It's time to identify who real friends are. It's time to accept that at 23 years old, right, wrong, or indifferent, the world sees you as an adult. It's time to start acting like an adult with big business. Billions. Big business is on the line here, brother. And I hope that Nike puts those Ja ones on sale for discount, because that's the only way I like the shoes, but I need them on discount. Let's hop into some other topics, man, when it comes to fake ID, because we got these things called the NBA playoffs. And the NBA playoffs are cooking. We are down to 4, the final 4 version of the NBA. We are officially there. But before we get to the final 4, let's rewind to the previous series, because when we last left, there were several series that were still in limbo. We won't rehash who did what, who was right, and who was wrong, because I was wrong with a lot of them, I admit. But I will rehash a few things because Golden State lost, as we know. Lakers won in how many, Flo? How many Lakers won in? 6. Lakers won in 6. But on the other end of that,
I'm sorry, y'all. It shouldn't have been that hard for me. But it shouldn't have been that hard. I was like, man, how many? I gotta get my bad. My bad.
6. But you were right. You were right. I was wrong. Lakers did win, in fact, in 6. Lakers in 6. But on the other end of that, the Golden State Warriors seem to be done. They seem to be tired. They seem to be a shell of themselves, and the dynasty might be over. When it comes to fake ID, I want to just know whether or not you agree with Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr has said in the aftermath of Golden State losing, in the face of a decision that Golden State has to make, and a face of decision that Bob Myers has to make, because he might not be coming back, but he has basically said, Steve Kerr, this is making the statement, that if we don't re-sign Draymond, we ain't serious about winning. We're not a contender. Love me some Draymond, but I need to know whether or not Draymond is the cornerstone of them being a contender. Or is that just some fake ID propaganda? I'll start with you on this one, ETP. There's a lot packed in that statement. Yeah, Draymond punched Jordan Poole. And as we saw the season evolve, a lot of us wanted to punch Jordan Poole. He turned out to be a clown who got paid. So I can see why Draymond would want to punch him in his grill. Wasn't perfect the way it happened, but I understand it a lot better now. That Jordan Poole got paid, y'all. The one that we just watched shoot him out of several games, the one that was abysmal on defense, the one that was sort of a caricature on the sideline, that Jordan Poole got paid. Is Steve Kerr right, though? The Golden State Warriors aren't on a path towards championship without Draymond Green. What say you, ETP?
Yeah, I mean, they have no championships without him. So it's been the core, Clay, Draymond, and Steph Curry. I don't know that bringing him back gets them a championship, but without him, they have to redesign their entire team, their entire strategy. They don't have anybody that is as knowledgeable or skilled or embedded into the organization. So it's an obvious statement. He's been a part of the cornerstone or the core group that has won a championship.
Isn't he
4
the easiest
times.
to replace, though?
He's also cost them some things where he got suspended for kicking LeBron in the nuts and different suspensions and punching their newly signed max deal player in the face. I'm still interested.
Jordan Poole got a max deal. God bless America.
I'm still interested in figuring out what happened to the person that leaked that video, because obviously that was the biggest violation of the organization, at least from the perspective of the organization itself. But I don't think he's not the easiest to replace. I mean, he's the defensive captain. He's basically the heartbeat of the team. He's all of the the emotional leader, all of these things where Steph is a generational talent, but he's not necessarily somebody that is putting rallying the troops and getting everybody involved. Clay is a generational talent as well, probably the second best shooter in the history of the league, but also had some pretty damaging injuries and isn't as complete of a player as he's been. But they're all aging at this point, so their best bet is to keep the core intact versus trying to rebuild or redesign a team around the existing talent, because they don't have anybody. Jordan Poole was the idea of like the ushering into the next generation of the future, and he was super instrumental in the last season to get them a championship, but he obviously didn't deliver. Clearly, they've admitted that the incident at the beginning in the preseason fractured the entire team and was probably a big factor in why they weren't able to come together and have the success that they wanted. So you have to run it back if you can. That's your best option. They're not a title contender, not next year. If Draymond leaves, there's no glue to the team. They have to figure out a whole new strategy. One that's been successful for a decade.
It has been, and you make some great points. Draymond being an undersized front court player, Draymond always being at a disadvantage defensively, but somehow, some way figuring it out. Draymond doing all of these other things. I might have undervalued that. I take what you said to heart because not a lot of NBA players, especially in 2023, would sign up to do that. And he does it every night, with not more than willingly. He wakes up like, I can't wait to be a nuisance, get all the rebounds, all the loose balls. Like, he's different. So I give you that. But Big Flo showed, like, Steve Kerr saying that we're not even on the path to being a contender without Draymond, like it's a non-starter. I don't know if that's the ID I'm giving him. That seems to be embellishing a bit. I give you last word on it before.
I guess what I would say is, for Steve Kerr, you saw what he did to Jordan Poole, right? So Steve Kerr gotta come out and speak on it because he don't want Draymond to hit him in his lips in front of everybody on video. But I think a team that doesn't have a tough demeanor, tough mentality, you need a Draymond. You need a guy like Draymond.
That ain't what you normally call it. What you normally call it? Moist. Ain't that what you said?
Those, you know what I'm saying? Like, I try to stay on the right side of my light-skinned brother. So I'm going to go ahead and try to keep it as positive as possible. But they are a little moist, man. And you need a guy like Draymond to come in here. And so when you say, like, he's easily replaced, I say with who? Who in the NBA you think has the demeanor of a Draymond? Now, yes, his offensive skills have diminished greatly. He used to sit there. He would give you that third splash, maybe not splash, but more of a ripple. He was a third ripple for the Splash Brothers, and he'll get you right. And he's not really doing that anymore. I just think you need to bring up different pieces around him. But when you have a guy like that, that's the heart and soul of your team, and that kind of keeps things together and is the vocal leader, you can't be too quick to replace. And this is the thing, the problem with the NBA, in my opinion. They're still the champs. They got eliminated, but they're the champs. Like right now, the only champion, the reigning champion is Golden State. And you want to just blow things up and get everybody because they didn't win it all? Basketball is the most unrealistic sport when it comes to expectations. If you don't win everything, trash. Let's blow the whole team up. Damn.
Yeah, but but it's also the contract. I think nobody's talking about they should blow it up. I think it's the business side of it where Draymond's a free agent and he can opt in, opt out. Clay wants a max deal. There's new guidelines around salary cap that makes it challenging to keep the team together. So I don't know. I haven't heard that anybody's talking about blowing the team up. It's a question of can they keep the team together?
And even Bob Myers probably won't be back. The orchestrator of all of it.
I believe you could get Draymond for cheap right now. So might as well keep him. He's not coming off a statistical year that's great. So when you go in there and negotiate with this guy, he's not getting a max deal. So I wouldn't give him a max deal.
So and it's along the same lines, fake ID. What are we saying with Phoenix? Because Phoenix also was bounced. And KD didn't play particularly well. CP3 was in his favorite spot on the sideline. DeAndre Ayton, even in that last game 6, decided to sit right next to CP3, knowing that he was on the hot seat.
He was lonely.
Is this Phoenix team ready to actually compete? We'll talk about them losing Monty Williams. They don't have a coach at the moment. But just looking at the way the team is constructed with an amazing superstar and an aging superstar. Are they built to win now? I'll start with you on this, a Big Flo show. The 30-second answer to it is
who's the amazing superstar?
You joking, right?
Are you joking? Who are you talking about?
Who do you think that major superstar is?
I hope you're not talking about the Mr. Hairdo.
No. They got a young superstar, man. I ain't talking about. I said an aging superstar and a young superstar.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying you put who you want on there, but I think that KD is a second fiddle on that team, and the playoffs proved that to me.
Okay, so we're done. We're done with that little misunderstanding that we had.
Yeah. No, I said an aging superstar
because KD. I said I'll ship his ass up out of there and get somebody else, man. KD's not doing nothing with nobody, man. He has to be he has to be like the icing on the cake. He can't be the cake.
He's second.
Right now.
He said, but he's still second.
Right now, he's still cake. He's still cake. Then he needs to be icing on the cake. He can't be cake. He can't be the substance, or whatever. None of the layers can be KD. He just got to be the unfair advantage that you throw on top of everything for him to do well. In my opinion,
you would agree that Devin Booker is indeed a superstar.
Absolutely. You know what? Absolutely. I just thought you were out of pocket. That's why
I'll be weird throwing this superstar concept around.
Devin Booker's a superstar.
Nah, Devin Booker's a superstar. Devin Booker's a superstar.
Why?
Look how he played in the playoffs. He didn't have no fake ID in the playoffs.
We can spend a whole hour on this, but you don't think Devin Booker belongs in that
How many superstars can there be in the NBA? Like, I'm not saying that he doesn't play like a superstar. I'm not saying that he didn't play like a superstar, and he might be on his way to becoming a superstar, but there's more to
for a minute though.
He has. I don't disagree with that, but I'm just saying, like, he's not a household name like a superstar in the NBA.
Okay.
There's levels.
What else does he need to do? What else does he need to do?
He has opened the door to be presented as a superstar. So now if he continues
for his foot to come over and do that threshold,
he didn't make all NBA. That's why you say he's not a superstar.
How many superstars can there be in the NBA? We just need to decide what's a superstar.
Were you surprised that he didn't make all NBA?
Yeah, he having a conversation here, B. I need to ask him
what makes a superstar. Like, we could throw it around.
What does he need to do to become a superstar for you?
He doesn't need to play any differently, but this playoffs gave him the spotlight to now he is on the radar to becoming a household name. In terms of people that, like, casual people that don't watch basketball knowing who Devin Booker is, yes.
So you think household name is a prerequisite to be a superstar? I get it.
I mean, there's just more to it. Like, there's more celebrity to being a superstar. Like a star. Like, that's what it comes down to. Like, you are
I didn't realize he didn't make all NBA.
Let me ask you this: do you believe his play warrants superstar? That part of it he's taking care of.
Yeah, he plays like a superstar.
Okay, I'm good.
But he doesn't have the marketability
and we
yet.
both
He
agree
doesn't have
that
the brand yet.
Wiggins' play does not make him a superstar. Just because we try to look like a litmus test.
I'm not messing with y'all today, man. This ain't got nothing to do with Wiggins. We done with Golden State. You bring up Wiggins.
You got to have a control group. Me and E agree that Wiggins is not a superstar, but you think Devin Booker plays well enough, but there's other things that kind of in some way outside of his control.
But like, you need a shoe deal. You need to be an all-star, perennial all-star. You need to,
or you need to have a blick and put it into your head on IG. Okay, that's fair.
All right, so I give you last word on it then. Is this Phoenix Suns team constructed?
Hey man, shout out to Laura Fleury out there, who's been a trooper. Listen to me scream at you guys while she tries to act like she's asleep. Shout out to Laura Fleury.
Hey man, it's a family affair, baby.
She got a gun pointed at me right now, so
she got the blitz.
Earth. Her and Rajab Morant have been talking last night. She's not really happy about the show, but the show must go on.
The show must go on. Tell her we said on behalf of the Ball Hawk Sports Talk, thank you.
I don't think she's going to respond well to that.
She's not going to respond well to that.
I think she just went to sleep in the bathroom.
You think they are ready to win right now, ETP? The way the Phoenix Suns are constructed, obviously they're probably going to shop DeAndre 8. Not obviously, but it's been rumored. They seem to think that CP3 is the answer and going to be their point guard going forward.
So the issue, new ownership, clearly making all these decisions. I mean, they traded away their entire defense for KD and thought they were going to get something done. If Phoenix actually, so they, and CP3, as he always does, unfortunately for him, got injured at a point when they could have actually made a substantial run in the playoffs. This team was constructed less than 3 months ago. Monty Williams tries to make it work with, losing key elements of his defensive, support and trying to redesign. So the idea that like this team wasn't bound for greatness is such a false narrative, because one, the only team that could actually make a solid run, like we talked about, or I said it before, it's like LeBron can put a pickup team together today and potentially take you to the finals. No other player in the league can do that. And so the idea that you brought Kevin Durant and everybody's like, oh, they're the favorites to win the championship and all this. And then your main field general, Chris Paul, goes down, who's going to keep the team together, who's going to move everything forward, who's going to orchestrate that. So I think it's just a false data point to say like, oh, they need to blow up the team. They didn't do what we did realize is Kevin Durant may not be that, alpha that he claims to be, because whenever he's put in a situation, he either isn't able to come up spades or somebody else, he's in a system that allows him to just be the hired gun, which is totally fine. But I think it just creates a different perception of who Kevin Durant is as a player. But I don't think any of this is indicative of how good or bad. Like Monty Williams being fired was egregious, and it was just this new owner that's.
So let's go there. Because fake ID, I was under the impression, and I said this when Notre Dame's head coaching job came open on the college level. I said Monty Williams needs to go to his alma mater and take that job, because Mike Bray has been overemployed for the last 8 years. Notre Dame, when they have any success basketball, they're going to keep that guy and bet on that horse. Mike Bray should have been fired a long time ago. And I said it. I said, Monty Williams, when it comes to the case of having some job security as a black coach, most places ain't the place to be. Notre Dame, I think, would have been the place to be for Monty Williams. I was laughed at in this group of brethren who also happen to have no. I was laughed at. They're like, why would Monty lead? And Monty got Phoenix. This is before Kevin Durant. Phoenix is on the verge of winning. And I said to them, the NBA, when it comes to their employment tactics, they got a very short memory. They have no allegiance.
Yeah.
I mean, they just trifling, downright trifling. To be a black coach in the NBA is to be a person walking on eggshells every single day of your life. And Monty Williams, let me look right here in this camera.
So, I gotta check this. You're saying being a black coach in the NBA is what? like there's no black and white like the NBA
being
from a coaching standpoint.
Fair. Fair. I will take the racial.
This is not the NFL.
I will take the racial component out of it, and I'll just say being a coach. But if I'm being honest, the fact that Steve Nash got an opportunity, the fact that JJ Redick is about to get an opportunity, the fact that freaking what's the dude's name? I forgot the young one. I'm tripping. The Lakers, right out of playing. I'm tripping. Dad was 7-footer. I am tripping. What's his name? Was a Lakers coach. White guy. Walton. Got an opportunity. But
let's be fair to the NBA.
There's a boost to being white too now.
The NBA coach right now, the Lakers coach right now, Ham. This is his first head coaching job. He's out there doing a great job as far as I'm concerned. I mean,
Ham's done a great job.
There's a lot of black coaches in the NBA that are doing well, and there's a lot of white coaches that get fired.
There's also a lack.
They just fired this dude in Milwaukee. I'm like, Jesus.
Budenholzer, Nick Nurse.
He was terrible. Budenholzer was terrible.
It's not a race.
Budenholzer in the same conversation, because we're going to talk about Doc Rivers and Monty Williams. Coach Bud was terrible. Let's be honest. He was terrible. I said that with 20 games left in the season. I said, he's really bad. He doesn't make adjustments. He never has a play off of timeouts. He's bad. And Eric Spoelstra just exposed it. But and this is not about race, but I'll say it and then we'll move on. There is definitely a boost to be a white coach in the NBA. Is it as egregious as the NFL? No. But look, Jock Vaughn should have been a head coach long time ago. You got so many names of black coaches that have been sitting on the sideline not getting an opportunity where they are really giving JJ Redick an interview. It ain't. Look, I think the NBA is significantly better than
Sam
NFL.
Cassell's getting interviews. I don't know, man. I'm not okay with the narrative that
Sam
of
Cassell
all the
can't be the
leagues,
face of
the
anybody.
NBA,
Sam Cassell
saying that the NBA is racially biased in a way that you're talking like it. I'm not okay with that. Considering
I think they are.
Considering what we're looking at, on top of the fact, if you ask me 10 times out of 10, if I'd rather be an NBA head coach or go coach at a major university, I'll take the NBA 10 times out of 10. Monty Williams will have a job before it turns to the summer solstice, and will be
fair.
And he'll be fine.
Then look, if as a coach, and this is why I said this for Monty Williams, if you value the check, the NBA is the way to go. if you value the check, job security, raising your family in a stable environment, having a support system, having a school that the kids could go to, I would say that Notre Dame would have been ideal for Monty Williams.
Yeah, but now you're dealing with the rotation, the revolving door of the transfer portal, NIL, and players leaving and going and coming.
To win in.
He's a proven.
He doesn't know a different climate. It's not like he's Coach K and has to adjust to a new environment. It would be the only collegiate environment he knows. My point is this, is that, yes, Monty Williams will have a new job before the summer solstice. And that job, too, comes with a level of job insecurity that makes it asinine to think that the NBA it's a players' league. We talked last week about almost the coaches being irrelevant at this point. People laugh with Kyrie Irving was like, man, the coaches are going to be coaches. The players will want to go and make the decisions. And the truth of the matter is it's true, but that makes you obsolete as a coach. Now, the level of obsolescence, I do believe that black coaches are a little more obsolete than the white coaches, but that's just my take on it. Point being is that I think Monty Williams, right, should have, if I was advising, I would say, Monty, go call Notre Dame. Because I could see the writing on the wall, because the closer you get, you're a victim of your own success. Monty Williams had made lemonade out of lemons for so long, but hasn't gotten across the finish line. And that makes you, unfortunately, that makes you a target. That makes
but even people that have gotten across the finish line, like you have Budenholzer, Nick Nurse, you have Doc Rivers, like people that have gotten across the finish line just got fired too.
Yeah, what about the guy in Toronto? Like, what was his name? The guy
that's Nick Nurse.
Nurse. No, when he
you're talking about the black coach.
The guy that was coach of the year.
Black coach.
Dwayne Casey.
Yeah, they'll get you whatever. But the bottom line is, from a timing standpoint, realistically, how does Monty walk away from a team that should have, even before they had KD, was in position to say we have a legitimate playoff run to go coach in college? Come on, man. Notre Dame isn't even a hot job in college for basketball. We're not like a basketball school. Why on earth would you leave an NBA job to go start recruiting and try to rebuild some shit? But you can sit there in the NBA, living in Arizona, doing what he's going to go do. Like, and to ETP's point, he's going to have another job really soon. There's a lot of people who are going to be like, man, shit, let's Milwaukee. I mean, I don't know if they hire anybody yet. I haven't paid attention, but somebody big is going to give him the reins and say, you know what, Monty, we believe in you. Come over here. We're going to get you a point guard. We're going to get you a point guard who can go into the summer. You know, we're not going to get you a dude with bad hair to come in here and mess up the squad like you do every other damn program and get every coach fired. We're gonna get you in here. You come in here, do you shit. Lakers. I like this Lakers coach, but somebody good is gonna pick up Monty and he gonna fuck around with a chip.
Hey, maybe
I'll give you one. I'm gonna make one statement just to totally blow this up. One name, Ime Udoka. Like
he was at the draft.
He was at the draft representing the organization. Like
hoping he can get the number one pick so they can put the mic in his face. If that dude. He did some shit that's inexcusable. He cheated on your girl, and that's inexcusable. And his ass backyard ever. He's fine. NBA does a good job, man. You got to give them props. They do a good job, man.
They do a good job in the context of comparing them to the NFL. But they also do a good job. They do a better job if your complexion is lighter. That's just the truth.
I just can't ride with that narrative. Like there are situations where you're like,
you said Sam Cassell. You know how long Sam Cassell has been on an NBA sideline coaching? He's been considered one of the best assistants in the NBA for the last 10 years. And you say Sam Cassell in the same conversation with JJ Redick?
I'm saying he's getting – I don't know the efficacy of any of these people as coaches.
Yeah, I heard
Darvin Ham was at Milwaukee. He ends up the head coach. Tyronn Lue, rookie. He was a rookie head coach with the Cavs. Now he's one of the most respected coaches in the league. Like
I gotta go with
Monty Williams, one of the most respected coaches in the league, will have a job. Ime Udoka did who knows what he did, but apparently it was one of the most egregious, most disrespectful things to an organization. But oops, here's another head coaching job. Like this is not the NFL. This is not anything in comparison. Like there are situations where you're like, why does Steve Nash have a job? But was that because of a specific relationship? Was it because of race? I don't know. But there's no pattern of behavior with the NBA across the board that's like, oh, black people, former black players or black coaches don't get a shot. Joe Mazzulla is 34 years old, never played a game of professional basketball in his life, and he's a head coach of one of the most storied NBA franchises in the history of the league.
How did he get that job? Did
He
they
was an
pick him
assistant.
off of Did they pick him out of a studio set after being on TV and just
He was
give him
an
a chance?
assistant. He wasn't one of the greatest point guards in the history of the league.
My point to you is he fell into that job because of Ime Udoka. Don't try to compare that to you. Use two names.
They gave him the full. They gave him an interim, and then they gave him the head coaching gig.
Fair. And look, I think that was a bad decision. He's a horrible coach. But
I don't disagree with that, but he's got a gig. Doc Rivers has overstayed his welcome at so many organizations.
That's different than comparing it to Luke Walton.
We want the ability
and got to be the head coach of the most historic organization in the NBA. That's different than comparing him to a Steve Nash who had never coached YMCA basketball and got to be the lead of, at that point, one of the most valuable franchises, the Brooklyn Nets. That's different than JJ Redick, who has never coached anything beyond high school, that is now on TV getting an interview. You guys went with Darren Ham, Tyronn Lue, and freaking Jock Vaughn, and freaking, what's the other guards you talked about from Florida State? I'm tripping. But my point is those guys have served their time. They have been assistants. They have worked hard. Don't tell me that there's no difference. Is it better than the NFL? Absolutely. But don't tell me there is not a difference between complexion and opportunities you get in the NBA, because that is just factually off base. There's a difference.
Where are the facts? Where are the facts? Like,
I just gave them to you.
Facts.
What other facts you want?
Here's the thing.
What facts?
I just gave you everybody that you mentioned that was black.
Because Steve Nash got a coaching job. Jason Kidd got a coaching job, a head coaching job. But like, when you're one of the greatest point guards that has ever played the game of basketball, you get the benefit of the doubt that you can coach a fucking team.
You just asked me about specific coaches, right? I gave you their background. Compared them to backgrounds of guys that were white. If that doesn't present enough evidence and facts to you, then I don't know what will. You asked me a question.
Okay, but I'm giving you counterpoints. Like, Joe Mazzulla is 34 years old, never played professional basketball.
And he did not go through a normal hiring process. Let's not be silly here, man. Like, let's not. Now we're being silly. He got the job because somebody else was summarily dismissed. And he was there as an interim, and they wanted some continuity, and they hired the guy. Let's not act like that's the same as JJ Redick making a hot take on Tuesday and getting interviewed for his real organizations in the final two on Wednesday. That's not the same.
Who did he interview for? What job?
JJ Redick just interviewed, I think, for Milwaukee.
I mean, okay, Magic Johnson was the head coach of the Lakers. Had never coached before. There's all types of examples.
There are exceptions. I'm just saying that the norm, everybody you just mentioned had a very long
Magic Johnson was the head coach of the LA Lakers, having never coached, according to you. Okay, Steve Nash, terrible. But he got a shot.
And but y'all tried to say it in the same voice as Sam Cassell. Sam Cassell's been considered one of the best assistants in the NBA for 10 years now, 15 years. That's not the same. Anyway.
Okay, but you're pointing to Steve Nash, and I'm telling you, if we're gonna use the race as a litmus, Magic Johnson got the same opportunity and he had the same outcome.
You said being one of the best point guards in the game gives you a newfound level of opportunity. I agree with you. That's a good comparison. Give me a comparison that equates to Luke Walton, please. Any black brother that was middle of the road, not sixth man, he might have been at one point eighth man on the team. Give me one example. And I'll take that. Tyronn Lue was an assistant that did a great job before he became head coach.
Luke Walton was an assistant as well.
And I think he
was an assistant at Golden State.
2 years. Luke Walton was an assistant for 2 years before he became a head coach. At the Lakers. Come on, man. It is what it is. I'm sorry. My bad. Glass Bart says JJ interviewed for Toronto, not Milwaukee. I had that wrong. But point being is that he actually got an interview with zero coaching experience. We laughed when Steve Nash got that opportunity.
I think that's more of a exception to the rule. Like I said, we said this
point
before.
Guard. It's a point guard.
We said this more in football.
But JJ Redick wasn't one of the best point guards ever played in the NBA.
We want the ability to have bad black coaches too, since there's so many bad white coaches.
I do.
And
That's all I'm saying.
Doc Rivers.
Yeah, We got a lot of bad black NBA
Doc
coaches.
Rivers. Let's talk about Doc Rivers.
Joe Mazzulla.
Let's talk about Doc Rivers because Doc Rivers also got fired. In this episode of Fake ID, Doc Rivers has something that everybody else that you just mentioned doesn't have. Doc Rivers has a championship under his belt. So are we holding on to the Doc Rivers of old, a Celtics championship, or in this episode of Fake ID, has Doc Rivers finally revealed himself? Because I have been an advocate for Doc Rivers, but it's tough to defend the indefensible. And Doc Rivers is getting dangerously close to the indefensible when it comes to some of his decisions that he makes. The inability to call a simple timeout at times. The inability to – he had a 6-minute stretch in Game 6 when they had a chance, a closeout game. Jason Tatum is playing terrible. There's a 6-minute stretch where Doc Rivers doesn't make a single adjustment. I can't defend the indefensible. Where do we stand with Doc Rivers? In this episode of Fake ID, is Doc Rivers getting exactly what the doctor ordered, pun intended, and getting fired yet again?
I think it was time for him to go. I do. I think it was time for him to go. I think they gave him a lot of chance. They gave him a lot of leg. Maybe it's just because of the history that he's had before, but he had to go. He blew that whole thing, that situation up, and it was time for him to get the hell up out of there. I guess you can't give him the personnel issues of the past. They can't really put those on him, but it's not working over there. Something's not working. You got the league MVP. He ended up underproducing in the playoffs. Coach has to take some of that. So I think Doc had to go.
ETP, what say you? Because I'm going to throw this extra layer in there. Doc Rivers, that's why they say no new friends. Doc Rivers went out of his way to make sure James Harden was a part of that deal, and he got James Harden for Brooklyn. It has been reported, not by James Harden, but someone close enough to report it. It's been rumored that James Harden was the biggest proponent of Doc Rivers being let go, being shown the door. And now James Harden is deciding whether or not he's going to opt out on that. Well, not deciding. It's strongly considered most likely he's going to opt out of the extension. So the same person that brought you in was the reason that you got up out of there. What are we saying with Doc Rivers? Because I love Doc Rivers as a person. I love him as a steward of the game, as a citizen in broader society. But I wouldn't want Doc Rivers to be coaching the Miami Heat. I don't want him coaching my team. Is Doc Rivers is the gig up? Has the charade been discovered? And is Doc being shown the door because Doc just is not a good coach? I ask you that, ETP, before we move on.
I mean, I think there's two things. One is, he's had a whole lot of talent for a lot of his coaching career and has underdelivered for it. In this situation, I don't know how. He takes the responsibility as the coach, but we know Harden did basically what Harden has been known to do in the postseason for a lot of his career. He might have a game or two where he shows up, but ultimately he doesn't really perform at the highest level. Embiid supposedly was still, nursing an injury to an extent. That being said, they were up 3-2. They should have closed it out. I don't see, of all the firings that happened in this current postseason, it's probably the most justifiable, if not it's as justifiable as the most justifiable, just because they underdelivered and they weren't able to, kind of fulfill whatever the requirements were. Well, you have the league MVP. My question is he going to find another job? Because to your point earlier about player empowerment, it seems like it's becoming more of a younger coach league where you have to be able to relate and identify with the talent in the players in a way that's different than traditional coaching practices where you were more the authority. Now you're more of like, a locker room manager, you're a strategist, but you're very much, so go the team. So being a coach, the dynamic of it has changed dramatically. And a lot of the players know as much as the coaches at this point. So you have to bring a lot of, clear and powerful strategy to the game, but you also have to have relatability where the team will follow you and support you, where for whatever reason, the Celtics organization or the team, they support Mazzulla. For whatever reason, he's won the locker room over, where he might not make the best coaching decisions, but he's supported by the players. I don't know that Doc can have that going anywhere else at this point, given the way that the league has changed.
You mentioned Joel Embiid. So let's talk about players, because this episode of Fake ID, I think we also saw in the playoffs that there are some people that got their identification re-examined. You talked about him being the league MVP. It is amazing that Joel Embiid went from, make sure I get this number right, because it's a big number. Make sure I got the number right. I think I wrote it down. It was about 33.1 points a game or something in the regular season, down to 24 or something like that
23.
in the postseason.
Yeah.
He is now the owner of this dubious title, the only NBA MVP, league MVP that has never made it to the conference championship. Unfair. He just got the title of MVP, but still says something. What do we think with Joel Embiid going forward? I thought he deserved the MVP this year. I thought he deserved it last year. So if nothing else, is a makeup call for him not winning it last year. But is Joel Embiid the type of player that you can build a franchise on? And then we'll get to the conference finals as well, but let's start with Joel Embiid, ETP. He's a 7-foot juggernaut. He extends the floor. He can shoot from everywhere. He defends the basket well enough. He seems to be in it and love the sport. But it seems as though he always comes up short. Is he the superstar, mega superstar that we think he is that can win a championship on his back? Or is that fake ID?
I think it's TBD. He's still young relatively. If you're asking me if I would like build a franchise around Joel Embiid, yeah, I wouldn't. It wouldn't be my first choice, but I would have no problem doing it. I mean, he's super talented. If he can stay healthy, there's obviously, he's playing MVP caliber ball. He's played MVP caliber ball for the past few years. It just so happens that there's other players that have been playing substantially better than him. And as a result, he hasn't gotten that recognition. But it's a question, right? Like there's players that eventually get over that hump. I don't know. Philly has always had a lot of dysfunctional elements to their organization, whether it's on the court or off the court. So I don't know if I rebuild Philly with Joel Embiid, but he's really building a franchise around, but you need the right support. If you ask me if I was the head coach of Miami, the irony of this is Joel Embiid and Jimmy Butler were on the same team and they weren't able to go to the conference finals.
I got two words for you, baby. Pat Riley. How you like me now?
It's crazy.
Pat Riley. How you like me now? That's Pat Riley, baby. Hold that thought, Big Flo, because I know you want to weigh in on it. So we'll come back to you to answer. But I'm going to present the next question for food for thought, because you point out something. You point out the Miami Heat. You point out that they are in the conference finals, basically. I sort of read that through your statement. But now you got the same four teams that were in the bubble. I have put an asterisk next to the Lakers championship. And the same four teams that are in the conference championships 2023 were in the conference championships in the bubble. Everyone said that bubble basketball was an anomaly, that the championship should have an asterisk next to it. Does these four teams appearing in this year's playoffs, 2 years removed, 3 years removed, a few years removed from the bubble, disprove the asterisk? Do we yank the asterisk away forever? In this episode of Fake ID, we've been saying that you're a fake champ. You're a paper champ when you win a championship in a bubble. You didn't have to travel. You didn't have fans. You had all of these special, unique circumstances. That means that you'll always be in a unique category, but the same four teams. I got to admit that my theory that the Lakers should have an asterisk next to their championship is on the verge of being debunked. I thought you, Big Flo.
I think that's silly. It's so silly to have an asterisk on a championship. Everyone played in the bubble. You had LeBron
Not everybody.
James.
Some people didn't play. Some people opted out, but I got you.
Yeah, fair. No superstars that I can think of opted out. But you have AD and you have LeBron. LeBron being a championship guy in the past that are in there. So I really don't see what the difference is. Now, granted, We're seeing that Denver's mile high advantage gives you, some stuff you didn't have to deal with going up there in altitude. But in general, I mean, everyone had to play in the bubble. Everyone had to not see with the fans. Everyone had to do whatever. I'm sure the fans in LA are electric, so it's not like they lost by having less fans. Tyler Hero played out of his mind, and he was young. I feel like Tyler Hero came, he doesn't play as great with all the pressure of the fans on him as he would, coming in there young in an open gym, basically like an AAU game. I just think it's stupid. Now, the fact that these Final Four are back together is so irrelevant to me. Like, as far as whatever that means, like, so what the hell? What does that do with anything? It's just a coincidence that we talk about. So, I don't know. I think I don't the asterisk. I don't recognize the asterisk myself. I just kind of rub it out when people try to talk about it. But I think at the end of the day, Lakers is 6.
ETP, those same 4 teams, does that make all of the conversation about the bubble being less than, does it make it all lunacy at this point? I'll give you final word, then we're gonna get out of here in a second.
It's a different reality for sure, right? Like Tyler Hero was getting kind of scrutinized about how he played after they left the bubble and the season afterwards, and how he was a star in the bubble, and then afterwards he wasn't performing up to the level that he needed to. But ultimately they all played on the same court. They all played by the same rules. They all played by 2 points was 2 points for each, 3 points was 3 points for each. There's no difference. I think it's interesting to see, but at the end of the day, things change over time. There's different coaches, there's different players, although you have the core, the nucleus of each team. But these are all strong organizations. The Lakers have 17 championships. The Celtics have 17 championships. The Heat have Pat Riley and one of the best coaches in the league, and they have Jimmy Butler. Then you have Denver, who has a multiple-time MVP and an amazing supporting cast that we don't really even talk about, because Michael Porter was one of the biggest prospects coming out of college, but when he hurt his back, nobody talked about it. Now he's showing up. Jamal Murray. So I think the bubble narrative is just so irrelevant, but at least when you see all 4 teams back 3 years later, it's to show that, okay, well, there is some relevance to that, to the point that they were all playing. Like, it's, however, if you're all playing under the same rules with the same guidelines and in the same venue, there's no asterisk. The asterisk is if somebody had an advantage that someone else didn't.
Well, I think people like me, because I bought into it, and probably more so because Miami lost. If Miami would have won, I am proudly displaying my hypocrisy. I wouldn't put an asterisk next to it. But I think people like me use the stats and the data that showed, and it was collective, but how the shooting percentages rose drastically in the bubble, right? There were some elements that made it better for everybody, but the fact that it was for everybody, again, probably means that no one had any particular advantage, which is the normal qualification for asterisk. You did talk about LeBron. Someone did. And in this episode of Fake ID, I want to say, because the Denver Nuggets head coach Mike Malone today called out the narrative after going up 2-0 on the Los Angeles Lakers. He says that, everybody is making this about the Lakers. In game 1, we talked about how the Lakers adjusted and came back. Game 2, everyone talked about LeBron missing shots and having turnovers late, and no one's talking about the Nuggets. In this episode of Fake ID, I just want to know, man, like, LeBron has looked really bad at times over the last 2 games. And we've got to call it, like, if we're going to be a part of the GOAT conversations, you got to take the good with the bad. Last series and the previous series, the good should have been, in most cases, except for haters like me, in most cases, it was highlighted. Here's this man, 38 years old, putting up numbers like this, leading his team, even when Mr. Glass, as Big Flo calls AD, is not showing up, or he's hurt, or whatever the case might be. Even when role players aren't making shots, LeBron's figuring it out at a ripe young age of 38 on both sides of the floor. But the good also comes with the bad. And in this episode of Fake ID, here we are faced with this realization that after 2 games, LeBron looked particularly bad last night. He is now 1 for 20 in the fourth quarter shooting threes. He had a string of possessions where he shot ill-advised, and I say ill-advised because I hate 3-pointers early in the shot clock if your name's not Steph Curry. He took ill-advised 3-point shots. And now we're faced with this conversation at 38, long in the tooth, playing against a young team. Murray got hot, being guarded by everybody, but a few of those possessions, LeBron took a jump shot. He's a part of that picture. He's part of the poster. What are we seeing here? And I'll start with you on this, ETP, because I know Big Flo Show is about to have a situation that might faint, that he's got to say anything remotely negative about LeBron. So I'm going to give you a chance to gather yourself, Big Flo. I'll start with you on this one, ETP. And this episode of Fake ID is the real LeBron at 38 coming out, right? Yes, he's playing in Mile High. You've got the elements in terms of playing in Denver, but you got the elements of now you got to get to, after your game 6, you got to get to Denver that's been resting. You got the elements of fatigue, and they've looked tired, especially LeBron. What say you, ETP?
They're down 2-0, but it's early. I think we'll know a lot once they go back to LA. But to that point, Denver, as much as, LeBron was I think an assist away from a triple double. So it's interesting to say like LeBron had a terrible game. I know that he missed some key layups and he was 0 for 6 from 3.
Turnovers,
but he had some turnovers. The thing that I'm concerned about is, can they keep it up with the younger team? Definitely Denver likes to run. And then LeBron rolled his ankle, towards the end of the game. Like, he's been dealing with the foot injury. Is this something that's going to be a concern moving forward? If you didn't tell me that he's 38, I'm not necessarily worried about him being 38, but I think it's just continuing to come up. It's a concern, but there's not really anything that I saw in the game where I was like, he's showing his age as much as he might be, he made a couple bad decisions, or there were some things that he made mistakes on, but okay, it's a guy that's human. I didn't get a sense that he was run down. The fourth quarter overall last night was just kind of indicative of maybe there is a fatigue element involved, where Denver turned it on and LA was kind of flailing towards the end, but they still kept it close. So it's still early because they're in it. They're still in the series and in every game, and even when they're not playing, at 100%. But I think we'll know once they get back into the crypto.com arena and what they can do there. But I wouldn't count LeBron out and say, oh, LeBron's finished, or he's washed or anything like that. He's still playing at an elite level. He's still one of the best players on the court at all times.
At all. I would agree with you there. Although I think he should have probably deferred. You had Hashiruma. What's his name? How you say his name?
Hachimura.
My bad, Hachimura. You had Hachimura playing out of his mind. Anyway, I gotta go to you now on this Big Flow show. Drum roll, please. I'm putting you on the spot. My eyes won't let me not ask you this question, because when I'm watching, I don't know if I see championship LeBron. I don't know if I see potential greatest of all time. I just put potential in front of it. I'm not going to debate whether or not he is. I don't know if I see a 5th championship. I don't know if I see the greatness that has been so inherent. Whenever the topic of LeBron comes up, I see a man that looks old. I see a man that looks at times like he doesn't want to be the alpha and take over games. I see a man that's taking bad shots. I see a man that has ill-advised turnovers. I see a man that defensively seems to be a step behind when I compare him to himself, which is always a lofty comparison. What's the real ID here? In this Fake ID episode, you told me Lakers in 6. Cool. You said it with your chest. But Lakers in 6 requires LeBron to be LeBron. And here's our moment in this show. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me why.
I mean, overall, LeBron was trash last night for LeBron standards. I don't think he looks old. Honestly, I think he looks like he's playing young. What I say by that is he's still making great defensive plays, blocking Jokic's shot in the paint. He's still making nice ass rebounds. He's still chasing people down, doing whatever. All young man stuff, right? He can still go to the cup and power through people. All young man stuff. The reason why I think he's playing young and not old is he's like, you got to know when you're cold, right? And what I liked about LeBron in previous series is, he knew where his game was that day, and he used other people. I think he did try to step up and say, all right, AD is trash tonight. We don't know what's going on with him. Reeves was trying hard to force it a little bit, but they were getting a lot of forced shots, and LeBron was like, all right, man, I got to shoot us back into it. It didn't work. But I just felt like he tried too hard at the end to shoot it when he knew he was broke. And I'm not saying avoid the jumper, be scared to shoot, but driving, he did drive and dish. I mean, as much as I want to hate on him, there was some times he played some real smart basketball. A lot of driving dishes that people were just missing the shot. But defensively, he played well. He went and played some center. I think he did a great job doing that. I think Jokic, if you look at it, honestly, they got him rattled. Jokic is not himself. They have him rattled in that game.
And yes, they're up 2-0.
They're up 2-0 because, AD didn't show up at the end. What's his name got inexplicably hot. Everything, the real story to me is Ham. I think he's doing a great job coaching, an unbelievable job coaching. I think he's making adjustments. He made an adjustment in game 1 that, they were down by 90 or whatever, and then they came back and were in the game. And I think it was because he made some adjustments. He's making some unbelievable adjustments. Now, in this day, when to kind of go back to the theme about coaching is we don't know who's coaching here. We don't know if the players are coaching or the coaches are coaching. We'll never really know. LeBron might be making those adjustments. Those players might be making whatever it is. Adjustments were made, and Ham is the coach. I'm going to give him credit. But I guess the way I see it is, LeBron's not going to be that cold the whole series. He's going to have a hot shooting day. He's going to have a situation where you go, AD played as bad as he did. I think Hochimura, I don't want to say his name wrong because he's so damn good. He got cold at the end. I mean, he was 8 for 8 at one point, and then he missed the next 5 shots. Maybe that's just the law of averages, but I think they're going to put it together when they get out of Denver. The problem is, they have this pressure where they can't make a misstep because Denver is capable of being explosive for stints like that where they could just steal a game from you. So obviously game 3 is a big game. They come out here and they win it. I came out here for it. I don't think they would let me down, come all the way out here just to lose in my face. I don't think they would do that for it. But LeBron's got to step up in some areas, and again, he's playing young a little bit. He's doing great athletic moves, great feats, but there's a little bit of a effort situation. Sometimes I think he needs to take on his chin where shots are missed or stole or they're steals, and you look at people, no one is in that sprinter stance or standing flat-footed hoping someone else plays defense. Yep. Look a little AAU-ish at times, but I mean, Lakers is 6.
Say it one more time. And look in the camera. You got to look in the camera. Say it one more time.
Lakers is 6.
Hey, man. Well, it might be that West Coast air that's getting to your brain, but you said it like you meant it. Like we ask every week.
I put some chest in there.
You put some Vicks Vapor Rub on there. Mm-hmm. Like we ask you every week, please like, comment, share, tag a friend, tag a foe, tag anybody you know, and please subscribe to both the YouTube channel and the podcast. All right, we're down the final stretch, man. We're coming home. It's elbows and knees. Let's get through the finish line with this because we talked about Joel Embiid, whether or not from his, I don't want to call it traditional front court position, but he's the closest thing to a superstar that we would consider a traditional big that we have left in the NBA. The NBA is going in a different direction, evidenced by what became the Victor, I can't never say his last name. Let me try to say Wembanyama sweepstakes, also known as the NBA draft lottery. San Antonio came out on top. If you have not been introduced to Victor Wembanyama, he is 7'4", basically a guard. And that's where the game is going. And so it's going to be interesting to see what San Antonio is able to do with him. It's going to be interesting to see a 7'4" and very slight of frame. That is a very nice way to say the boy looked like a toothpick if he can stay healthy. But we shall see. That is where the game is going. Where the game is at now, we shall see. There is another Eastern Conference final game tonight. Miami stole game 1 in Boston. I think it is largely predicated upon an inexperienced coach he's in over his head right now. Going up against one of the best coaches. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown have to deliver. But Jimmy Buckets, to me, is the best player in that series. And that's not to shade Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown. Jimmy Buckets is at that point in his career. He realizes that this might be the last time he gets this opportunity. And he's playing that way. So it should be interesting to see what happens there. My take on it, and I think E's take on it. I would say something like, let's go Heat. I doubt that he would agree, being a Boston man, but it's going to shake out to be a good series. So let's go home with this, man. Let's go home with our Ball Hog Spotlight moment. We'll start with you on this one, ETP. And for those of you who have not been a part of the experience that is the Ball Hog Sports Talk, this is where each one of us gets the ball. We get to half court. We get to dribble that thing. All eyes on us. The spotlight is on us. We get to pick something from sports, business, entertainment, because Ball Hog Sports Talk is where sports, business, and entertainment collide. That's right. A bunch of businessmen getting together to discuss sports in an entertainment fashion. The Ball Hog Spotlight moment. We're passing the ball to you, ETP. Your show. What you got for us?
So we talk about the league going in another direction. Victor Wembanyama was the directive for all teams that were not interested in making the playoffs and trying to rebuild their team. And they had the NBA lottery this past week. And the San Antonio Spurs won the prize to be able to draft Victor Wembanyama. And I'm calling conspiracy. I think it's completely rigged because they don't want such a high-profile prospect to go anywhere else that they can't be developed. Greg Popovich is there. They've had Tony Parker, Boris Diaw, so there's a French connection, so to speak. And it's a great place for him to be able to develop, unlike a Portland or a Houston or other organizations that might not be able to support it. So I'm calling rigged, but great for him, great for the organization, and we'll see if he actually pans out. They're saying that he's the biggest prospect since LeBron, and some people are saying bigger prospect than LeBron.
So that is a perfect place or perfect person to avoid Detroit wholeheartedly. Detroit had the highest odds. And look, I ain't saying, but I'm saying. They made sure that brother didn't go to Detroit. Big Flow Show, we're passing the ball to you. You got the ball. It's half court. You dribbling the clock out. It's your show, baby. Ball Hog Spotlight moment goes to you. What do you have?
I mean, tonight, WNBA comes back online. Brittany Griner's making her debut. I'm a little disappointed that they haven't covered a little bit more. I think they missed the mark. We talked about marketing moments for WNBA, and I think they could have been tracing her unless she's.
We should have like a drop a bomb like clue on that. Brittany Griner's coming back. We've talked about that a lot on this show. Shout out to Brittany Griner for how many months? 13 months of detention. How many months she did? I don't know how many months.
9.
A long time of detention. Shout out to her, man. Congratulations, Brittany Griner back.
So she's come back. I think it should be good. Hopefully, people can tune in. Of course, it's come back on a playoff night, so it's going to be difficult. But yeah, it's great. She's back, and we'll see what's going
on. Good stuff. My Ball Hog Spotlight moment. I'm gonna do some quick ones. The first one, NHL Conference Finals started last night with the Florida Panthers, you know it, beating the Carolina Hurricanes in overtime 3-2. Tonight, the Western Conference Finals starts, and you have the who's playing in that? You got Vegas. What are they? The Vegas Golden Knights and the Dallas Stars. So NHL mentioned. The other one is Sha'Carri Richardson, who is now running fast again, very fast again. When asked what was the difference, she said, everyone keeps saying that I'm back. I'm not back. I'm better. May being Mental Health Awareness Month, check out her story. She's been very open and transparent and vulnerable about the death of her mother and what that led her to mentally, and how now she feels through therapy that she is better. Not back, because as sports fans, we want to look at the times like, oh, she's back, and then make it all about sports. The truth of the matter is there is a mental component to every sport. So shout out to her for bringing awareness to it. And then last but certainly not least, the highest paid WNBA players right now. Number one is Jackie Young, making $252,000 a year. Number two is Arike Agumbawale, making $241,000 a year. Number three is Jewel Lloyd, making $231,000 a year. Number four, tied for fourth, DeWanna Bonner, $224,000. Skylar Diggins-Smith, $224,000. Elena Deladon, $224,000. Two things here. First, this is why it makes sense for people like the Bayou Barbie to stay in college. When we talked about this, compared it to NIL deal. Second, of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people mentioned, 4 of them went to Notre Dame. This has been a great week. We talked about fake ID. And while it's reminiscent of our college days and us trying to get into clubs and trying to get into bars, we also made it pretty transparent, plain and simple, how it impacts sports business and entertainment. Whether they are truly who they say they are or not was tested here in the Ball Hog Sports Talk. Like we ask you every week, please like, comment, share. The whole crew is in the building this week. We had ETP on the East Coast. All right. We had my man, the Big Flow Show, on the West Coast. And you got me, B Brown, ESQ, a.k.a. the Ball Hog, a.k.a. the Mountain South, a.k.a. Mr. Excessive Celebration, a.k.a. Breezy. This has been the Fake ID episode of the Ball Hog Sports Talk. Won't cost you nothing, but please like, comment, share, tag somebody, and subscribe. Don't cost you a dime, but you be helping the crew out. With that, enjoy your weekend. Your May weekend is summer's in full effect. We is out. Peace.